So I would like to invite everyone to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and bring to mind an image of nature. Now open your eyes. What did you see? Most of us probably saw a gorgeous landscape with lush forests, mountains, waterfalls, plants, animals. Did anyone see a city environment or a crowd of people? Nature exists everywhere, not just in these pristine, untouched, far-off landscapes. It's within and all around us. We are a product of nature. And much of our struggle comes from seeing ourselves as separate from it. In my life, I've struggled with anxiety, depression, eating disorders, addiction, even suicidal ideation. And I am not a unique case. These are common symptoms in a world that's lost its roots. None of us are immune to the effects. My personal journey led me on a path of self-discovery, healing, and ultimately a return to my roots. It also led me to the realization that my personal journey wasn't enough because we exist in community. I began to explore the intersection of nature, culture, and community, and I found a sweet spot, a pulse of something wild and alive, right under our noses, right beneath our feet, and inside our chests. I didn't discover it, it's always been here. The poets know it, artists know it, nature knows it. Coming back to this wild aliveness is the path of rewilding. And I started to see this as my path. Activating it within ourselves and our communities. And reclaiming our relationship with the earth. So this journey took me all over the world. I gave myself an unconventional education in this path of rewilding. I studied different cultures, ancient wisdom traditions, plant medicine lineages, rituals, and practices. I immersed myself in nature. I realized that our current models see nature as a problem to be solved rather than a sacred relationship to be nurtured and tended to. Our current models see human beings as either conquerors or a cancer, rather than caretakers and co-creators. So it became very clear to me that we needed new models that weave together ancient and modern wisdom in a way that gives all stakeholders a voice. Models that activate the dormant energy and potential within our communities and restore our role as caretakers. So in my travels, I looked for both an inclusive and sustainable framework for understanding the world and our place within it, and also a set of tools and practices that could help activate our potential within that framework. In many tribal and indigenous cultures, the medicine wheel is one such model for understanding the world. It's a simple shape, a circle divided into 4 parts that map the 4 elements, 4 seasons, and 4 directions. It represents the rhythms and flows of nature and this great circle of life that ties us all together as participants in a cosmic dance. This model became the foundation of my business, the Rewild Collective. And the tools and practices I gathered along the way are offered in my wellness space, Rooted Lounge, right here in downtown Las Vegas. So we'll use this model as a roadmap on our journey today. With each stop along the wheel, we will connect to a different rhythm that will pull us back into that dance with life. We will talk about how we can activate these rhythms with the ancient technology of ritual held within the space of community, and ultimately how this process can reinitiate us into the mysteries of nature and help us heal and thrive on this planet. So we'll start our journey in the north, where our focus is returning to the roots. The north is the element of earth. It is the season of winter when everything is going back to the earth to pull nourishment up from the depths. It represents our death cycle, so this tends to be the part of the process that we avoid the most. But in this model, it's where we start our journey because the wisdom of nature tells us that with every death comes rebirth. So this is a time to slow down, sink in, simplify, and give up the chase. It's a time for nurturing and being held in community. So to activate this rhythm, we start by remembering ourselves as a part of the earth. So taking nature out of the abstract and making this subtle but very powerful shift of seeing it as something that is within and all around us, no matter where we are. And then restoring the sacredness of place and our sensory experience. So in our world of technology and social media, we've experienced this profound uprooting and disconnection from the specificity of place and our own embodied physical experience. So when we return to our roots in place, we are able to feel a sense of grounding beneath us, and from there, we can chart our path forward. So the next step is reorienting ourselves within time and space. So where do we exist in history? What is our role in this story? What is our ancestry, our lineage? And then what is the land that we live on? What stories and traditions are held in this land? What are the wild spaces around us? Who are the plants, people, and animals that are indigenous to this land? And how can we honor all of this and act as caretakers? And then finally, reconnecting to rhythm and ritual. So the rhythms of nature exist all around us, and for much of our human history, we lived by those rhythms. The rising and setting of the sun, the cycles of the moon, the flow of the seasons. By reconnecting to these rhythms, we start reconnecting to that dance with life, and we give ourselves a way of moving and flowing together. So one of our favorite ways of working with rhythm and ritual in our community is our moon gatherings. So every new moon we gather to set intentions and plant seeds. And every full moon we gather to harvest the seeds that we planted and to celebrate as a community. So when we return to the roots, we access the force of life that lives there, this almost magical force that pushes things up from the ground. Ironically, by surrendering to gravity, we access sort of an anti-gravity. And it's like catching a wave. This force picks us up and carries us with it, helping us to rise from our roots. And from there, so many new possibilities start to emerge, which takes us to our next stop on the wheel, the East, where our focus is reimagining our future. So the East is springtime, fresh starts, new beginnings. It correlates to the element of air, which is our mind, our thoughts, inspirations, ideas, our imagination. This is a time for freshness, innocence, play, curiosity. We activate this rhythm first by reawakening the magic. So remember in elementary school when you planted the little seed in the styrofoam cup and seeing those first little green sprouts come up from the soil felt kind of like magic, right? So that's how kids relate to the forces of nature. In our serious adult lives with all of our serious adult issues, curiosity, play, and magic are some of the first things to go. But when we cut ourselves off from those things, we also cut ourselves off from all of the inspiration and creative solutions that arise from that place. So reawakening the magic is key. And then reassessing our environments. When we choose to show up in our communities and grow roots, things start to change. We start to see things differently. Beauty and inspiration pop up everywhere, even in the most unlikely of places, like the middle of the desert, or blighted urban areas like the one we're in right now. Ferguson's is a great example of this. So this used to be a motel, abandoned, forgotten about. And it was transformed into this gorgeous community center supporting artists and creatives and small business owners. So the key here, the idea is to bloom where you're planted. Find the magic right where you are. And then reclaiming the dream. So Martin Luther King didn't have a plan or a strategy. He had a dream. Reclaiming the dream means creating a shared vision that we can all rally around and get inspired by and take action on together. We're not too concerned with changing the world. It's more about finding rooted dreams. These are right-sized dreams that emerge from consistent presence in our communities. They are actionable, sustainable, and they feel good. So when we are nurtured and rooted, when we have a shared vision and right-sized dreams, then we are capable of taking powerful action together. And this is when we start to really become a creative force of nature. And this takes us to our next stop on the wheel, which is the South. And our focus here is re-enlivening the process. So the South is summertime. It's full activation, peak energy. It's the element of fire, which is passion, creativity, the spark of life. This is a time for ripening, blossoming, celebrating with our community, sharing the fruits of our labor. And we activate this rhythm first by rekindling the spark. So in systems and structures that are uprooted and devoid of magic and play, things tend to take a long time, and they're not often very effective because there's no enlivening force. But think about someone who is in love. Nothing is an impossibility. They can move mountains. Louis Schwartzberg said that beauty and seduction are nature's greatest tools for survival because we protect what we fall in love with. So let's fall in love with ourselves, each other, our communities, nature, the world. Because besides just feeling good, it actually works. When we are enlivened by this force of love, co-creation comes as a next logical step. So that takes us to recreating our path forward as a force of nature. Co-creation is the power of the collective in unified action. And from this place, we don't need to wait on new laws to be passed or keep screaming into the void for change. We can just start taking action right where we are in the ways that we can. Nature wants to create. It holds within it emergent, self-organizing properties. And far from regressive groupthink, when we start tapping into this self-organizing intelligence, we access sort of a superconsciousness. And this is how powerful movements catch on. Thich Nhat Hanh said the next Buddha will be the Sangha. Sangha meaning a powerful and aligned community working together to create change. So this is when our dormant potentials start to fully activate. And next is reigniting the flame. So this speaks to our need for collective joy and celebration. Rather than being a means of escape, celebration in this model is a powerful tool for binding us together as a community, helping us share the fruits of our labors. One of our favorite ways of doing this in our community is to go outside of town to the dry lake beds and throw desert parties, or our annual pilgrimage to Burning Man. And so then we come to our last stop on the wheel, the West. Our focus here is restoring right relationship. So the West is the season of autumn, which is surrender, letting go, release. It correlates to the element of water, which is our emotions and our relationships. This is a time for starting to slow down, go within. It's a time for healing and restoration. We activate this rhythm first by revolutionizing rest. So creating spaces of vulnerability and permission to take collective pause. This is something we really need to actively work on building back into our process as a community, because we need spaces where we can come together and just be. One of our favorite ways of doing this is our sound baths. Sound bath is basically like an adult slumber party. Everyone shows up, lies down, and just receives beautiful healing sounds. So this is a great way to just come together and be held in a space of community. And then reestablishing balance and sustainable flow. This is where we assess what's working, what isn't, what needs to be healed, what needs to be released. If we're constantly charging forward, demanding productivity at all costs, then we never give ourselves the space to make necessary change, and we drag a lot of baggage along with us. This isn't sustainable. And another way to create balance is by giving back. So we work with a number of different organizations in our community, and it's important to seek out the organizations and movements within your community that are making the most impact on the ground floor. And this is how we can make sure that resources flow through a system in a way that creates equality and sustainability. So then we come all the way back around to the roots. Another death cycle and another rebirth. This process builds off of itself as more and more people are pulled into this flow of community and reciprocity. And the result, rebuilding a world meant to last. So this is a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Nature informs culture. Culture supports nature. We act as caretakers, and community is a sacred container that helps activate this process and bring it full circle. So when we enter into this flow with life, we are able to access these powerful forces and become co-creators with nature. And from there, we drop right into the center of the wheel, which is heart, spirit, love, connectedness, wild aliveness. This is what we're capable of together. So to sum up this path of rewilding, I invite you on this journey of returning to the roots, remembering the wild, reclaiming the forgotten truth, reconnecting to the heart of the child, reimagining our future, re-enlivening our past, restoring our sacred connections, rebuilding a world meant to last. Thank you.